Wow, full word there. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing okay. It is Monday, April 15th. Yay, I think. Wow. Astra and I were just sitting here. We were looking outside and watching just the sunrise. It's just beautiful. And she's decided to join me for daily devotions today. This is Astra. She's a black short-haired domestic. And my name is Red Moon Eagle, and I am here. Wow. Okay. We're in the tide of renewal between the spring equinox and the summer solstice, and I do this most days of the week, and I enjoy it so much. It helps me kind of get going for the day, and it makes me feel good that I can connect with you. So we're going to start with Geb, and from the Egyptian oracle, Geb. Geb is prosperity, god of the earth and all animals. He is usually depicted lying on the ground with plants and fruit on his body, or a bearded man with a goose on his head. The emblem represents the hieroglyph of his name. Geb symbolizes wealth, fertility, and abundance of nature, but also it is most feared forces. With Geb, you can trust in slow but constant development, such as realization of a project or conclusion of a program. You might experience extremely pleasant, tranquil, and tender emotions, full of harmony and moral integrity. I like Geb. I like that he likes ducks. I couldn't tell you why I like that, but I've always kind of liked Geb and his ducks. Self-care, sacred self-care. Chanting. Mantra, my voice is heard. Experiment with different tones, noticing which ones come easily or feel challenging. This goes back to one of last week's cards also, which is sound. Journal prompt, what blocks, real or imagined, prevent you from chanting? What practical steps can you take to eliminate the blocks? There's actually a book, I don't remember what it's called, but there's a book that talks specifically about all of the chakra sounds in chanting. It's actually a pretty cool book. I think I had a copy of it at one time. Animal Spirit Guidebook. The crow. Talk about an animal who talks. Spirituality, strong, creative, watchful. The crow has long been a symbol of magic. A crow is drawn to the supernatural and has a gift for seeing the unseen, knowing the unknown. It is said that the crow holds within the mind's eye the three realities, past, present, and future. Crow energy is potent and should be tapped into when the mind is clear. Those with crow tendencies must balance their lives with healthy diet, joyful friends, and regular self-study. When in balance, psychic, strong, and clear. When out of balance, ungrounded, hypersensitive. To bring into balance, daily meditation practice. And then our final is the Mystical Shaman Oracle Guidebook. 27, The Hunter. The essence of hunter. Before the dawn of agriculture, we hunted in the forests to feed our kin. The hunter never takes more than what the village needs to survive, and often takes only one creature, the good kill. He is a master tracker, knows which path to follow to find success. The invitation of this card is to rely on your own skills to traverse the thick forest you are in to reach your destination. You need to follow the tracks left by spirit to claim your bounty, which is already prepared and being offered to you. Do not follow the maps drawn by others. They will not lead you true. Instead, become the map maker. Find your internal compass and use all your senses, including your common sense. The medicine of this card is to not settle for the roadkill. It could be poisonous. Be careful that you do not become prey to your desires and fantasies. Remember not to want more than you need, so you are not guided to unbridled ambition. It is okay to come home empty-handed. So the Hunter card, there's a couple things going on. So those of you that have ever lived in Montana or are interested at all remotely in freedom of speech, your First Amendment rights, there is and I will put it in the link below, someplace where you can go and request of the Montana Library Commission to fund and support the Montana Library Association's universal funding program. The law was actually passed in like 2007 or 2009, but it's never been funded. And that is a budget from the state that funds all the libraries equitably. It gets spread across all libraries. And it has to do with interlibrary communication and making sure that all libraries have access to all the information. Right now, your local library gets some state money, but money is based on tax base. It's based on a lot of things. A lot of things interfere with that. And right now, with the trend in many states for book banning and all this other stuff, Montana has also fallen prey to some of these outside organizations that are trying to interfere with your right to free speech and your right to information and your First Amendment rights. And why do I bring that up here? Because when looking at this Hunter card, the master tracker knows which path to follow success, drawn by the maps, not drawn by the maps of others. Ready, claim your bounty, and be careful not to become prey to your desires and fantasies. One of the things that I have found with, so there's a couple things. So Crow is being creative, being watchful, past, present, and future. Geb is about prosperity, but prosperity with slow and constant development, the realization of a project or a conclusion of a program, you might experience extremely pleasant, tranquil, and tender emotions full of harmony and moral integrity. There's a warning in the Hunter card about be careful not to become prey to your own desires and fantasies. Remember not to want more than you need and not be guided by unbridled ambition. And there is this, how do I connect this for you? There is this modern societal thing about when people are passionate about politics, right? Or they're passionate about their rights, or they're passionate about having access to something, or the discussion about how toxic diversity is. Okay, I'm going to back up to go forward. I have grown up in a world where I can go to a library, and if I would like to know how to build anything, if I want to know anything about seeds banks and where seeds grow so that I can grow a garden in Montana, or if I want to know or I want to look up all the patents of corsets in history, or if I want to look up research that was done on albuterol decades ago, I can go to the library and I can get assistance from the librarian, or I can do it on my own. I can do research, and I can order through interlibrary loan books, material. I can find it. Now, I might have to look. I might have to figure out how to find it. It might take a lot of work, but I can do that. I have access to all of that information. If I want to read Mein Kampf, I can read that. If I want to read anything that is published, it might take me a while to find it, but I can find it. If I can find it, I can order it and I can look at it. Interlibrary loan might be a little tricky. Like some libraries, they'll say like, we're not going to send that to that library in Ronan, but if you want to come here, we'll let you look at our books. And that is a fundamental right that I have, no matter how old I am. If you are a 13-year-old girl and you want to go look up the history or how to hold a protest, you can do that. And your mom does not have access to your library card and your library history, especially if you've gotten old enough to take your parents' name off your library card. You have the right to look up those things. You have the right to freedom of speech and freedom of information. Your First Amendment, the First Amendment of our Constitution of this United States, allows any person, no matter how old they are, to have access to information. Now, are they going to understand it? Maybe, maybe not. Could it be used for bad things? Yeah, probably could. Could that exploration lead to somebody doing a bad thing? Absolutely. Is that the responsibility of the library? No, it's not. It is protected by our First Amendment rights that any person can look up information, and it is their choice to use that information for good or bad, depending on whatever your moral construct is. Why is this information? Why is this important? Because Crow tells us that information, past, present, and future, can be tapped into. It is the symbol of magic and the personality and the gift for seeing the unseen, the knowing the unknown. And the hunter is about the master who knows how to follow their own success. And Geb is that harmony. And what does this have to do with First Amendment rights? Well, when you do not have the ability to speak freely, and you do not have the ability to be a part of the choices that you make in life and have the opportunities, we do not live then in a democracy. We do not then live in a federalist democracy. We don't live in a world that we thought that we lived in. You know, all of the media that's going around about freedom of information, right? And these same people are screaming about banning books and restricting information and taking away your rights. The other thing that is woven into this is that all the YouTube videos that you watch, all of the random things about people fixing their car or fixing a sewing machine, or the tutorial from the plumber that told you how to take apart your drain so that you could pull all the hair out of it, or the people who are reading books or doing historical documentaries, or all the amazing musical artists that are creating their own channels and getting their music out there. All of the random crafting YouTubes that you watch, or the YouTube videos that you watch, or the Instagram posts or the reels that you're watching about how people are fixing their car or growing a garden and how to grow food and the best ways to do it. All of that is fundamentally based on your freedom, on your freedoms and your ability to access information through your First Amendment. And it isn't about protecting people when people talk about banning books, okay? That's not about your freedom. That's not about protecting children. It's not. They say that, but it's not. It is about unbridled ambition, and it is about controlling other people, controlling their thoughts, controlling their behaviors, and restricting people's ability to access information. There are so many freedoms right now that are being threatened, and one of the common discussions that happen is, well, people aren't interested, or people don't care. That's not a true statement. I don't believe that that is a true statement. I talk to people all the time that are extremely passionate about these things. But the commonality, which I too fall into this common bucket of helplessness and hopelessness and not knowing what to do. Because every time you talk about your First Amendment rights with someone, it becomes a politically charged, fear-based paradigm discussion. And I don't want it to be that. I want you to become involved. I want you to feel like you have that freedom of speech where you can say, I disagree, and I would like to have the discussion with you. But I also want to have the discussion separate from this fear-based paradigm. I am truly discomfited and genuinely afraid that the state of Montana, that commission, is going to take away some of my freedoms. And why am I afraid of that? Because I discovered something recently. I discovered something that maybe I should have known all along, which is in the state of Montana, maybe this is common in your state, that the Montana Library Commission is a government-appointed commission, and it is not bipartisan. It is appointed by the governor. They are not required to choose equally bipartisan participants, and they don't have a job description, and they don't have, there's no like oversight. It is all about opinion and politics, and they may know genuinely nothing about libraries. And hence, in the state of Montana, which was the first state in the country last year, the state of Montana removed us from the library, the National Library Association. They removed our membership. So there is now no access for training, leadership training for people in other parts of our state that are even more rural, that have a hard time getting training and resources. That's a problem. When you start cutting people off from things, you're starting to restrict and limit, and you are starting to take away their rights. And that's a big problem. And Crow, the power of Crow from past, present, future says, in the past, there have been governments that have taken away people's rights slowly and slowly. We've seen it around the world. And what happens when that happens is that someone comes in that might seem innocuous, like you're slowly raising the temperature and you're the frog in the pot and you're getting boiled alive. And next thing you know, there's a huge problem. And the hunter knows that hunting should be equitable. There is you take the animal that sacrifices itself for the food of the community. You do this with equitable understanding of how the world works. You don't take more than what you need. If you're gathering mushrooms or you are wild foraging for wild onions, you don't take them all because you want them to repropagate the next year. If you go into a forest and you clear cut and you don't replant, you have changed the soil. You have well, even if you do clear cut and you replant, you have changed the soil, you have changed the dynamics of the plant life and the animal life in that environment, and you change the ecology of the world. One clear cut at a time. And we know it's a problem, and we still let it happen. And Geb is on the surface about prosperity, right? But prosperity is also through the tranquility and the connection that we have for others and the honoring we have for the people around us. I may have a different political view of someone else. I don't know, I could throw something out. I could be a raging Republican. I could be very conservative about many things. And in many ways, I thought I was pretty radical as I was growing up. Come to find out, I'm apparently not very radical. I just lean into things like my First Amendment rights, my right to do daily devotions whenever I want to and put it out in the world. Do I have a huge blowy uppy channel? Have I done anything that would make the government look at me and go, oh my goodness, she's a radical? I don't know, maybe I have. In some people's world, I am a raging feminist. In some people's world, I am way too conservative. That's fair. But we have the right to have that discourse in our country because of our First Amendment. And we have the right to expect respect in that discourse. And we have the right to research. We have the right to say, oh, that's a very interesting statement. I'll go look that up, right? We have the right to do that. We have the right to do that research through our public library. In Montana, in our state constitution, women's rights are protected in some ways. And there's a lot of Montanans right now that are just, well, we had a rewrite of our constitution. Our rights are established. We don't have to worry about it. I would caution you to be very careful, because the library situation is a symptom of a big problem. There's a group of people that have a lot of money, and in Montana, there is a library consortium up in the far western part of our state that they have had discourse, and they are changing some of their library rules because of the loud vocal presence of people that are not even from Montana influencing and creating a lot of fear. So who's to say that in the next legislative session in Montana that somebody doesn't propose we change the state constitution to take away women's rights? You don't know. But history from Crow tells me that if somebody thinks they can do it, they will. There's a discussion right now in the librarian groups about a huge cluster of bills that are being brought forward by private organizations to take away your First Amendment rights in the state of Montana, and women specifically. These are not about protecting you. These are about changing the fundamental fabric of our country and our constitutional rights. Let's not let them. I know that you're probably busy. You have a job. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You are running your own business. You are a busy individual. I respect that, and I honor you, and I understand that. If you have time in the evening to decompress and watch YouTube videos, watch a movie on Netflix, take 5 minutes, follow the link to this video. I'm going to linking it before I get going this morning. I'm going to link it to a PDF. I'm going to link it to a website and someplace where you can go and you can write a letter to your state library commission. Please do so. Please become involved. If you are a woman in the state of anywhere in the country, if you are a woman, there is an organization called the League of Women for Voting, or League of Women Voters. I get the name wrong. I'm still very new to the organization myself. And they are a nonpartisan, so it doesn't matter what your political beliefs is, doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or independent or whatever. And this organization is and has been around a long time. And you might find walking into that meeting, there's a bunch of grandmas in there, because they are looking for younger people to become involved, and they do their research. They are trying to do more research. They are trying to be aware of all the layers of what's going on in the world. And they need people that are like you and me, that are connected to the internet, that are connected to pop culture in a way, and so that they can fight for women's rights. The women's right to vote is extraordinarily important. And in Montana especially, they are responsible for making sure that all the candidate information is out there, that you have all the information you can about candidates to know what things you want to vote for or not vote for. They're a powerful organization. I'm sure there's a Men for Voting Rights too. I have no idea, but if you are a woman and you would like to be involved, they're everywhere. You just have to look. And and they are involved. In the state of Montana, the reason women have basic rights in Montana is that this league, this national organization, fought for it. There's a woman that used to be from Bozeman, and she was integrally involved in rewriting the Montana Constitution so that women's basic rights were in the Constitution. Montana women have power, so let's harness it together. Women in the world, we have power. We're half of the population. And Crow, Hunter, and Prosperity reinforce that we need to be aware. We need to be on the hunt. And on the hunt, not for power's sake. This is not about bashing men, okay? This is about protecting our rights and protecting our ability to be involved if we choose to be involved. If you have kids and you want to go to a meeting, reach out. Let's find a way to connect you to resources so that you can get help to be involved. And I love you all. Have a beautiful day. Probably sounds like a big political statement, but the cards themselves reinforce. Being involved isn't hunting, isn't gathering stuff. It's about nourishing the community and respecting our world. And we need to do that. And to do that, we have to be involved. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you in prayer. Blessed be.